Knock it out. Oh, okay. Watch this. Real
Albuquerque's West Mesa, a vast and desolate expanse of land located within the city limits. Arid, barren, the perfect place to hide one's darkest secrets. Prior to 2006, the Arroyo Bank of West Mesa was largely uninhabited. That is, until urban development reached the area and the site was disturbed, buried, and platted for residential construction. On the 2nd of February 2009, a woman walking her dog stumbled upon a bone which had risen to the surface during the area's development. One that looked decidedly human. She notified the authorities, and soon, 11 sets of human female remains were unearthed in a small area, bringing the existence of a formerly unknown serial slayer to the world's attention. One whom the media dubbed the West Mesa Bone Collector. Thanks to the wonders of DNA analysis, the 11 bodies were soon linked to 11 missing person cases. Those of young women aged between 15 and 32, who were mostly of Hispanic descent.
Fuck. Okay.
Jamie Barella, Monica Candelaria, Victoria Chavez, Virginia Cloven, Selania Edwards, Cinnamon Elks, Doreen Marquez, Julie Nieto, Veronica Romero, Evelyn Salazar, and Michelle Valdez. All of them had disappeared at some point between 2001 and 2005, and most were working as escorts at the time they vanished. One of them, Michelle Valdez, was even pregnant at the time of her demise. Satellite images captured between 2003 and 2005 revealed tire tracks and disturbed soil patches in the vicinity where the remains were later discovered, suggesting that all of the women had been slain at a different location and then driven out to the dumping site. But although all of the victims' names have since been revealed, the identity of their killer remains unknown to this day. Who was the West Mesa Bone Collector, and why did his rampage seemingly come to an abrupt end?
That's fucked, man.
Though
One
no
of them was like
suspects
15.
have ever been officially named in connection with the slayings, one man in particular has always been a person of interest. Lorenzo Montoya, a 39-year-old printing company employee. Not only did Montoya live less than 3 miles from the burial site, but he also had a history of violence against women, and his co-workers divulged that he had privately confessed to them about the killings.
What the fuck?
Perhaps most damningly of all, dirt tracks were later found leading from his home to the dumping site. In December 2006, Montoya contacted 19-year-old Sherika Hill through an online chat room and offered her money to come and perform a dance at his mobile home located at 4000 Blake Road Southwest.
I'm sure that's just a dance.
The pair negotiated a price, and Sherika arrived at Montoya's trailer in the early hours of the morning. It's unknown what exactly transpired inside the trailer, but less than an hour after she had arrived, Montoya had strangled Sherika to death and had wrapped her remains up using duct tape.
Holy fuck.
Little did he realize that Sherika's boyfriend, Frederick Williams, was waiting outside the trailer for his girlfriend to finish her dance. He was watching as Montoya dragged her duct tape body out towards his truck. In a fit of rage, Frederick shot and killed Montoya then and there.
Holy
Following
shit.
this, the West Mesa slayings came to an end. Frederick Williams didn't face any charges. The authorities remain convinced that this wasn't Montoya's first
Holy
rodeo.
fuck, good for
In the
him.
words of Police Chief Ray Schultz, there's a good probability that this wasn't the first time Montoya had done something like this. It was very well planned and orchestrated,
I mean,
and that's what's worrisome about this.
man, the thing is like, that's a whole other conversation, man. Like, dude, that's what I mean when these videos are just heavy. The good thing is that he fucking shot him.
There's a good probability that this wasn't the first time Montoya had done something like this.
Yeah.
It was very well planned and orchestrated, and that's what's worrisome about this. While sifting through Lorenzo Montoya's home for evidence, detectives stumbled upon what could very well be a crucial lead. An eerie home recording found on Montoya's camera.
So that sounds like plastic.
The camera's set up facing the wall, leaving what happens off screen to our imaginations. The audio too is sparse. There's no TV on in the background, no radio. The whole scene is deathly quiet. Except, that is, for what sounds like duct tape being pulled off a roll and a garbage bag being opened. Many people are confident that Montoya was recording this moment for his own sick amusement. A memento he could return
that's
to
a weak
and
video?
enjoy again and again.
I don't know, man. That video
The
paired
moment
with that
he was
story.
disposing of a body. He was careful not to capture any of this grisly scene on film, so that he could always plausibly deny what was actually happening just out of view. This short clip is all that's been released to the public. According to investigators, the complete video begins with Montoya having sex with an unidentified woman.
Oh my god. That's not the full video. That's just the part that they released.
Footage fades to black and transitions to this clip. Some people even say that if you listen closely, at around the 36-second mark, it sounds as if Montoya says, "Tranquilo." In English, calm down, or be quiet. It's unknown whether Montoya was saying this to his dog, or perhaps even to himself. Or indeed, if he even does say that word at all. It's quite hard to make out.
Yeah.
Given that tranquilo is masculine in Spanish though, he certainly wasn't speaking to Sherika or any of the other women who met their fate in West Mesa. As far as I can tell, the police haven't revealed the timestamp on the video, so we can't be certain which of the women is being disposed of off camera, if indeed that is what's happening in this clip. It remains unconfirmed whether Lorenzo Montoya truly was the bone collector, the twisted sicko who claimed so many lives in West Mesa.
If the killing stopped
But this
after he
dark
got
piece of
shot.
fan footage certainly leaves us with a lot to think about. If it truly is what it sounds like though, then this is one of the very few recorded examples of a serial killer in action. Alisa Sherman was a 53-year-old devoted mother of four who worked as a fertility nurse in Cleveland, Ohio. Her best friend, Jan Lash, described her as a caretaker type, an amazing human being, the type of person who knew the neighborhood kids' favorite sweets and kept them in stock. By all accounts, she was an extremely kind and well-liked person. Which begs the question, who killed her? It's a question investigators have been trying to answer since her life was so cruelly snuffed out on March 24th, 2013. And a chilling piece of surveillance footage likely holds the answer. At the time of the incident, Alisa was in the process of splitting up with her husband, Sanford Sherman. Alisa and Sanford's turbulent relationship history included frequent fights, the shifting of money from joint to private bank accounts, and Sanford's admission to an affair. Alisa, who feared her husband, filed for divorce in 2011. Since she and her husband were still living in the same house, she put a deadbolt on her bedroom door for protection, and even sent herself an email in which she wrote, "I'm really afraid he's going to have me killed."
That situation has got to be so horrible. Basically, you're a prisoner in your own home. The feeling of not being safe at home is so fucking horrible.
She was extremely eager to see the back of Sanford and move on, to get past this dark chapter in her life. Shortly before their divorce hearing, on March 13th, Alisa texted her brother, "Trial's in 2 weeks. Hopefully there is life after death." That message would turn out to be eerily foreboding. At 2:55 p.m. on March 24th, Alisa sent her daughter, Jennifer, a text message saying she was visiting her divorce attorney, Gregory Moore, to finalize some paperwork. Concerns arose when Alisa failed to return home by 7:45 p.m., prompting worry from her children. She had assured them that she'd be home in time for dinner. Unable to get through to her mother on the phone, Jennifer began driving to Cleveland Heights in search of her. But she soon returned home when her brother, Jeremy, called her and told her something important. That the police were at their house and that they had some terrible news to share.
You think it was the husband?
Alisa had been murdered. A little over 2 hours prior, at approximately 5:20 p.m., somebody had viciously attacked her in broad daylight, close to her attorney's office at 55
Holy
Erie View
shit.
Plaza. A nearby worker heard screams coming from the street and saw an individual stabbing Alisa in the face, ear, neck, and back. In total, she was punctured 11 times. Law enforcement was swiftly summoned to the scene, but by the time they arrived, the killer was long gone. These grainy images, captured mere moments after the incident, while Alisa lay dying in the street, show a hooded figure in jeans and a green jacket, limping away. It's believed that this was the perpetrator. In the aftermath, Alisa's soon-to-be ex-husband, Sanford, siphoned around $2 million from her account, leading their daughter, Jennifer, to file a civil suit against him. This was settled out of court. One of Sanford Sherman's friends.
Fuck, man. He probably was behind it. Then he took all her money. Then he didn't give anything to the daughter.
Larry Shanker, later testified that Sanford had asked him how someone might get away with murder. Thinking it was nothing more than a thought experiment, Shanker replied, "Don't use your car, or don't let your car be seen. Don't use a gun, because it could be heard. Don't use your street clothes. Use something that would cover up your entire body. Your face.
Wow.
Your hands." Yeah, for obvious reasons, Sanford's considered suspect number 1. Interestingly, suspect number 2 would be Alisa's own attorney, Gregory Moore, whom she was on her way to see on the day she died.
Huh.
In 2016, Moore faced charges related to tampering with evidence, obstructing official business,
Wow.
falsification, telecommunications fraud, and forgery. It was Moore who had arranged to meet with Alisa on the day her life was taken.
Yo,
But
that's
although Moore
fucked,
claims
too.
that he was inside his office at the time of the incident, waiting for Alisa to arrive, keycard data and witness statements suggest that he had left the building an hour prior. Alisa herself certainly didn't think much of her attorney, complaining to friends that he was often late to their meetings and unprepared. She had desperately tried to find another lawyer, but, short on time and funds, was forced to stick with Moore.
Dude, lawyers are the fucking worst, man. I don't know if you guys have ever had to fuck with a lawyer before, but holy shit. They do not give a fuck about you whatsoever, man. I'm not talking about every lawyer, but a vast majority of lawyers, dude, they are so awful to like work with and shit, man. And it's always so super expensive, and it always takes forever.
The third possibility is perhaps the most speculative, but take a look for yourself.
I mean, there's always exceptions,
Many people
right?
don't think that this person is Sanford Sherman or Gregory Moore. Based on their petite stature, they actually think it's a woman. As mentioned, from 2006 to 2010, Alisa's husband had been having an affair with a woman in New York and Florida. Could this have been her, or perhaps another woman that he was involved with? If so, did Sanford have a hand in the planning, or did she act of her own volition? Theories abound regarding Sanford's motive and Moore's potential involvement, prompting speculation about the identity of the figure in the CCTV footage. Now, 10 years later, he, or perhaps even she, still hasn't been identified, and the blade used to end Alisa's life has never been recovered.
That's crazy.
There's a reward of $100,000 for any information that leads to an arrest.
That's crazy after 10
Before
years.
we move on, I want to introduce you all to Ridge, the good people who make these compact, stylish wallets. Now there are
Dude, you guys know about Ridge? Kissies. I'm gonna skip this. Don't hate me, Lazy Masquerade. Don't hate me. Dude, when the fuck was that?
Ttto-chan, the twisted-necked woman whose crooked head has haunted many a person's dreams over the years.
Yeah, that's fucking weird.
Perhaps you've seen this image before.
No.
Though it first appeared online in early 2010, it was truly brought to the wider public's attention by a Japanese magazine called Dangerous Images for Your Brain.
Okay.
The article, which was titled "The Woman Looking at the Camera," explained that this was a screen grab taken from a 2009 episode of Ryan no Gokigenyo, captured after the camera panned to show the studio audience. Though the rest of the crowd seemed to be reacting normally
That's so
when focused
weird.
on the stage, this one woman stands out. Her skin is deathly pale, her head is twisted at an unnatural angle, and she's staring right down the barrel of the lens with an almost menacing smile. After appearing in the publication, the image soon gained more notoriety online, particularly on Ttto-channel.
Can you fix her?
It even landed a coveted place on Japan's notorious Things You Must Never Search For list. Word soon spread that the episode of Ryan no Gokigenyo that the woman had featured in had been erased from existence by the showrunners.
Is that like an
who were
actual
desperate
thing,
not to
like
let anyone
twisted
rewatch
neck
it.
syndrome?
People online were labeling it as cursed, and even an optic hazard, something that once seen will have devastating effects on your mind. It said that once you've seen her face, it's already too late. Ttto is coming for you. She'll be with you soon, her head twisting around, corkscrewing as she walks down your hallway and enters your room, staring at you with hollow, distorted eyes.
Holy fuck.
And that grim smile.
Okay, that's kind of...
Is that the floorboards creaking? Or her neck? But don't start sweating just yet. Papa Lazy's here to break down why you're probably not doomed after all. Though it's true that the original image was taken from an episode of Ryan no Gokigenyo, not all is as it seems.
Okay, tree.
If you search the term Gokigenyo Kankyaku,
Okay.
or Good Day
Okay.
Audience on Google, you'll be met with an earlier incarnation of the screen grab, in which the woman's neck is less contorted, and her skin decidedly more pale. Still creepy, but still not the unedited.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's still kind of a creepy picture. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd try to fix her, but...
original. That would be this.
Yeah.
Rather than the fact that the woman's looking directly at the camera, there really isn't anything unnatural about her at all. The same woman was even spotted in a different episode of Gokigenyo, proving that she was just an ordinary audience member and not a paranormal entity. So if that's all there is to it, why did this image of all things get turned into a creepy internet artifact with its own lore and everything? Well, although many people claimed that the episode featuring this woman had been deleted from online archives, that too was nothing more than fiction. A clip of said episode, which aired on May 5th, 2009, has since been unearthed, and here it is for your viewing pleasure. As you can see, a lot less creepy than the story made out. In fact, not creepy at all. It appears the audience member was merely imitating the host, who mere moments prior had tilted his head as he made a joke. In all likelihood, a Ttto-channel user saw the woman's noteworthy imitation and decided to create this cursed image. Knowing Japan's love of kawaii kusasete, otherwise known as the Let Me Be Cute challenge,
What
that first
the
edit
fuck?
was probably expanded upon by another user and was turned into this creepier version, made famous by the schlocky article. An article which was of course published by Core magazine, whom I've talked about in the past. Let's just say they're not exactly known for their journalistic integrity, and I've no doubt they simply ripped this image from Ttto-channel and slapped on a story to go with
Dude,
it.
what if you were a
It makes
creepy
me wonder
image?
if this woman, whoever she may be, is even aware of how much of a storm she's caused online, all with the simple tilt of her head. Just goes to
Would
show
you be okay with
these
being a
internet
creepy
urban
image?
legends truly can come from anywhere.
I think I might be okay with it.
The year was 2016, and Viola Beach was an up-and-coming indie pop rock band on the verge of a mainstream breakthrough. Formed in Warrington, England, the group consisted of vocalist and rhythm guitarist Chris Leonard, lead guitarist River Reeves, drummer Jack Dakin, and bass player Thomas Lowe. Their sound was very in vogue for the time, and they were beginning to make a name for themselves, with plans for an international tour and a coveted slot at Glastonbury, one of the world's
All
biggest
ginger.
music festivals. Certainly the biggest in the UK. But before any of that, the band was scheduled to play at the Where's the Music Festival in Norrköping, Sweden. Their slot ended at around midnight on February 12th, at which point the band went backstage and relaxed for a short while. It was then that somebody snapped this photo of all 4 members. This should have just been another of the many pictures of the group living their dream. Instead, it would be the last image of all 4 members living at all. One taken less than 2 hours before the unthinkable. After performing at the festival, the group began driving back to their hotel in Stockholm in the early morning hours. Craig Tarry, the band's 32-year-old manager, was behind the wheel of their rented Nissan Qashqai. At 2:01 a.m, their car was caught on CCTV approaching traffic on the motorway. A row of cars ahead of them had stopped as the upcoming bridge was being raised to accommodate a shipping vessel. This was made obvious by a set of blinking yellow lights and 2 closed safety barriers. The surveillance footage shows the group's car slowing down slightly before accelerating down a narrow hard shoulder towards the bridge.
Fuck? Why?
But rather than come to a stop like all of the other cars and wait for the bridge to be lowered back down again, Craig accelerated,
Bro.
hitting the 2 barriers in the process
What
and
the
driving the car through a
fuck?
gap under the bridge.
Why?
With the top section of the vehicle smashing into the part-raised structure at 56 miles an hour. The Nissan Qashqai somersaulted 80 feet into the shipping canal. Chris, River, Jack, and their driver Craig all perished on impact, while
Why?
Thomas drowned in the cold water below.
What a fucking...
Craig's toxicology report came back clean, and he should have been completely fit to drive. The car itself had no mechanical issues. The road was wet, but not covered in ice. The exact circumstances that led to the crash remain shrouded in uncertainty, though the unusual engineering of the bridge may have had something to do with it.
It wouldn't even enter
When
my
most people
mind
think of a bridge being raised,
to go past
they
a
imagine
barrier
a
like
tilt
that.
bridge, one that tilts upwards from both sides to create a space in the middle. But this particular bridge didn't tilt. It raised. Some suspect that Craig had fallen asleep at the wheel, but that doesn't fit into the investigation's
No, I
findings.
don't think so.
If there was maneuvering to get around the stationary vehicles, Craig must have been awake when he accelerated towards the bridge. An inquest also found that Craig would have had enough time to stop the vehicle after hitting the first safety barrier. That is, unless he woke up seconds before the crash, saw the blinking lights as the bridge was rising, and, confused and running on instinct, sped up in an attempt to jump what he thought was a tilt bridge. One of the investigators working the case, Lars Berglund, has his own thoughts about what happened. My theory is that Craig was inattentive for some reason, perhaps talking on a mobile phone or turning round to the others in the car, and he didn't see the barrier in time. He might have been knocked out after hitting the first barrier with his foot on the accelerator. Still, that's completely speculative, and despite
doesn't-
reconstructions of the event and countless...
Dude, the first... Okay, when he's like here and he goes around the cars, like you have to be conscious for that. It's not like he went around the cars and then fell asleep. The person clearly knew what they were doing. They just literally didn't want to wait. That's all it comes down to.
hours of detective work, the authorities still can't say with certainty what led to Craig accelerating to his and his friends' doom. Viola Beach's self-titled debut album was released posthumously in July 2016.
Damn, feels bad.
A chilling incident occurred in the Philippines this month. 57-year-old Juan Humalon, or DJ Johnny Walker as he was known professionally, was a provincial news broadcaster who worked for 94.7 Gold Mega Calamba FM. On the morning of November 5th, 2023, the radio anchor was broadcasting on the station's Facebook page, streaming live from his home-based studio on the southern island of Mindanao. Juan's breakfast show had a small but dedicated following, and several thousand people were tuned in as he discussed current events and played some of his favourite tracks. As can be seen in this recording of the broadcast, at approximately 5:22 AM local time, right in the middle of Juan's breakfast show, an unidentified man entered his recording booth. The DJ paused and looked up, prompting the intruder to shoot him twice at point-blank range, hitting his lower lip and the back portion of his head.
What the fuck?
Juan slumped backwards into his chair as a radio jingle played. According to Cebu Daily News, the killer and an accomplice had asked a station worker for permission to enter the studio in order to make an important announcement about some lost belongings. When told they couldn't enter, one perp held the worker at gunpoint, while the other went to take the DJ's life. CCTV cameras caught footage of the two men fleeing the scene. A third man was reportedly acting as a lookout. After hearing the two blasts ring out, Juan's wife, Jeribel, rushed into the studio and found her husband barely clinging to life. She rushed him to a local hospital, where he was pronounced DOA. Despite Juan's demise being caught live on camera, his brazen killer's face wasn't in frame. An EFIT was released based on physical descriptions made by witnesses. According to some sources, one of the suspects has been apprehended, though his name hasn't been revealed, and no further details have been released, so it's unclear whether it was this man or one of his two accomplices. It's worth noting that this man, who had so coldly taken Juan's life, had also taken Juan's gold necklace before fleeing the scene. Even so, many suspect that robbery wasn't his motivation. You see, journalists in the Philippines often face threats from politicians and their supporters, and those who refuse to stay silent voluntarily are sometimes silenced forcibly.
Oh.
Such occurrences aren't uncommon in the Philippines, a country which has long been considered one of the most dangerous places in the world.
I didn't know that. The Philippines?
It's worth noting that according to the Global Impunity Index, the Philippines is the 8th worst country in the world at prosecuting the killers of journalists. Juan Humalon is now the 199th reporter to be slain in the nation since it returned to being a democracy in 1986.
Dude, what the fuck?
And at this point, it feels like only a matter of time before that number rises to 200.
Dude, why the Dude, I'm so glad I don't live there. What the fuck? It's because of tourism?
A huge thank
Holy
you to my
shit.
supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon.
Dude, that video was
Matt
awesome.
Fennell, George Lopez, Holly Lyons, Smilin' Jack, Ellen Doloff, Itai Al,
That was a good video.
Nefus 1988, Lydia Cumo, Asia Mina, Azrael
Man,
Larify,
Lazy Masquerade
Chief
hits
Kochwaki,
hard, man.
Colin Monsma,